Two animals walk into a cave in the mountains, a bear and a tiger. They have come to ask a god to make them human, and the god agrees. But he sets a price. He gives them a bundle of bitter mugwort and a handful of pungent bulbs. That is the entire diet. And there is one more rule: stay out of the sunlight. Do not come out 100 days. Now, if you were writing this story, you would bet on the tiger. The tiger is the hunter, the strong one, the beautiful one. The tiger is the animal every other mythology on earth would have chosen, and the tiger fails. Somewhere in the dark, the hunger breaks him, and he walks out into the light. The bear does not. The bear sits in the blackness, eating bitter weeds, doing absolutely nothing at all. And that is it. That is the whole heroic act. There is no monster, no sword, no clever trick. She simply stays. And a nation of 50 million still says out loud that it is descended from her, not from the tiger, from the one who endured. Hold on to that. It is the key to everything else. Because there are kings here who hatch out of eggs. 6 golden eggs, lowered from the sky in a red cloth. There is a fox with 9 tails, and she is not the one you are thinking of. There is a goblin that pop culture turned into a boyfriend, and a serpent in a well, waiting centuries for a promotion. And there is a 7th daughter, thrown away at birth for the crime of being a girl, who walks into the land of the dead to get medicine for the parents who threw her away, and who comes back and is still today sung to the dying. This is Korean mythology, and it is not a smaller China. It is not an earlier Japan. It is not a museum. By the end of this, you will understand why the oldest story this country tells about itself is not a story about winning. It is a story about enduring. But first, I have to be honest with you, because most retellings are not. That founding myth is dated to 233 before the Common Era. Older than Rome, older than the Buddha. And that number appears in no ancient source. It was calculated in 1485 from a text written 2 centuries after the myth was first written down, and the earliest surviving text that tells the story at all dates to the 13th century of the Common Era. The Samguk Yusa, compiled by a Buddhist monk named Irion around 1281, and there is an older history of Korea, the Samguk Sagi from 1145. The official one, commissioned by the court, and the founding myth of the nation is not in it. It is simply absent. The gap is over 3,000 years, and look at when Irion is writing. Korea in the 1280s is under Mongol domination. The country has been invaded again and again and again. The court has fled to an island, and a monk sits down and writes this. We did not begin as anyone's subjects. We began on our own mountain with our own God before anyone. That is a nation refusing to disappear. So, no, this is not a transcript from 2333, but it is not an invention either. Irion says he is quoting an older book. That book is lost. The story has bones. We just cannot date the bones. Now, let me tell it properly. In the beginning, there is a heavenly ruler named Hwanung, and Hwanung has a son. His name is Hwanung, and Hwanung does something almost no god does. He looks down at the human world and wants it, not to rule it, not to punish it. He wants to live down there, among people. He asks his father for permission to go, and his father says yes. So Hwanung comes down onto Mount Taebaek with 3,000 followers, and he comes down under a tree, a sacred tree on the summit. And you will read everywhere that it was a sandalwood tree. It was not. The oldest text names no species at all. It says, the divine altar tree. Later traditions swapped one character and read it as birch. Sandalwood is an English translation error repeated for a century, and he descends not onto a throne, but onto a tree on a mountain. He brings 3 ministers, the Earl of Wind, the Master of Rain, the Master of Clouds, and he takes charge of 360 affairs of the human world. Grain, life, sickness, good and evil, not a war god, an administrator of weather and mercy. And then the bear and the tiger arrive. They live in the same cave, and they pray to him every single day to be made human. And here is a detail almost everybody gets wrong. Everyone remembers the 100 days. That is the instruction, but that is not how long it takes. The bear endures for 3 times 7 days, 21, and she is transformed early. She does not have to finish. The point was never the number. The point was whether she would stay at all, and she stayed. And there is a footnote here that scholars argue over. The bulbs. English translations almost always say garlic, but garlic as we know it may not have been in Korea at that period at all. One scholar, Bak Hyeokgeose, argues the plant is mugwort, a bitter mountain bulb you must boil for 10 hours to make edible, not a seasoning, an ordeal. And that garlic reading was fixed by the first modern Korean translation in 1946 and simply never revised. It is not settled, but it is a better image. The tiger leaves, and in Korean folk painting forever afterwards, he turns up stupid, comic, sometimes smoking a pipe. The tiger became the joke, the bear became the mother. And the bear woman has a name, Ungnyeo, and once she is human, she is alone. There are no other people like her. She goes to the sacred tree and prays for a child, and Hwanung briefly takes human form and marries her, and she bears a son. His name is Dangun, and he founds a kingdom, Gojoseon, the first Korea. And he rules it, the text says, for 1,500 years. And when it finally ends, he does not die. He goes back to the mountain and becomes a Sanzin, a mountain god. Remember that. We are coming back to it. So the Korean people are the children of a god who wanted to come down, and an animal willing to sit in the dark. Divinity plus endurance. And Dangun is not history. But he is not nothing either. Korea still marks a national holiday for the founding. October the 3rd, Cheonjiwang, the day the heavens opened. A modern country of semiconductors and subways still has a public holiday for the day the sky opened over a mountain. That is a live myth. Now, Korean myth does something you will not see anywhere else in the world at this concentration. It hatches its kings. Not one, almost all of them. Watch it happen 4 times. Kingdom 1, Goguryeo in the north. The founder is Jumong. His story begins with a woman by a river. Her name is Yuwa, a daughter of the river god, and she is imprisoned. And a light comes through the window of the room where she is held, and it follows her. She moves, the light moves, she cannot get out of its way, and she becomes pregnant, and she gives birth to an egg, and the king holding her is horrified. A human woman has laid an egg, so he throws it to the pigs, and the pigs will not touch it. He throws it into the road, and the cattle step around it. He leaves it in a field, and the birds cover it with their wings. He tries to break it. It will not break. So he gives it back to the mother, and it opens by itself. And a boy climbs out, and as a small child he is already making his own bows. And he does not miss, ever. The name Jumong is said to have meant roughly, the one who shoots well. His brothers try to kill him. He runs south. He reaches a river with no bridge and an army behind him, and he shouts at the water that he is the son of heaven and the grandson of the river god. And the fish and the turtles rise up and make a bridge with their backs. He crosses. They sink. The army stops at the bank, and in 37 before the Common Era, he founds Goguryeo, Kingdom 2, Silla in the southeast. 6 villages, 6 chiefs, and no king. And one of them, a chief named Sobeolgong, sees a strange light down by a well called Najung. And there is a white horse there, kneeling, bowing. And when he comes near, the horse cries out and goes up into the sky, and it leaves behind an egg, a great one, shaped like a gourd. They open it. There is a boy inside, and they name him for the gourd, Bak Hyeokgeose. And in 57 before the Common Era, they make the boy from the egg their king. Then it happens again. A chest washes ashore with a boy inside, also a king. And then a third time. One night a king hears a rooster crowing in a forest, non-stop. He sends a man to look, and in the trees there is a golden box hanging from a branch, and a white rooster underneath it, crowing up at it. They take it down and open it, and there is a baby inside. His name is Kim Alji. Kim in Korean means gold, and here is a fact almost every retelling gets wrong. Kim Alji never became king. He was made crown prince, and he turned it down. It was his descendants who took the throne, the Kim clan of Gyeongju, and Kim is, today, the most common surname in Korea. Millions of living people trace themselves back to that box in the forest. Kingdom 3, actually a confederacy. Gaya. In the far south, 9 chiefs hear a voice on a peak called Guji, and the voice does not say, pray. The voice tells them to dig the earth, and dance, and sing, and it gives them the song, Turtle, turtle, put out your head. If you do not, we will roast you and eat you. It is one of the oldest songs in Korean literature, and it is a threat aimed at a turtle. So they dance and sing this ridiculous thing, and the sky answers. A rope comes down, wrapped in red cloth. On the end of it, a golden box, and inside the box, 6 golden eggs. And in 12 days they open, and 6 boys walk out, and they become the kings of the 6 states of Gaya. The first one out is Suro, and he takes the largest, 4 times, 4 kingdoms, the same image. Now, why? Why does everyone here hatch? Look at what an egg does in a story. A child of a human mother has a human father, and a father has a history, rivals, debts, a clan someone can dispute. An egg has none of that. An egg has no father to argue with. It arrives from the sky, sealed, and it is exactly as legitimate as it says it is. The egg is not a miracle. The egg is a claim. It says, this dynasty did not come out of your politics, it came out of the sky. And here is the shell. Now somewhere else entirely, off the peninsula, to an island, Jeju, volcanic rock in the sea south of the mainland, wind, black stone, its own dialect, and its own gods. And on Jeju, the shamans sing a creation story. And I need to flag something first. This is not the national canon. This is not what every Korean grew up on. It is a regional shamanic narrative sung in ritual on one island. And I am telling it to you anyway, because it may be the most brutally honest creation myth on earth. In the beginning, there is no separation. Heaven and earth are stuck together in one lump. And then a crack opens, and the light comes in, and the sky lifts, and the earth settles. But the settings are wrong, because there are 2 suns in the sky, and 2 moons, and so by day the people burn, and by night they freeze. And the world is unlivable. The Sky King comes down, marries a woman of earth, and returns to the sky, and she bears 2 sons, Daebyul-wang and Sobyul-wang, Great Star King and Little Star King, and when they are grown they go up to their father, and they fix it. They take bows, and they shoot the extra sun out of the sky, and the extra moon. Versions differ on which brother fires. The sky becomes survivable. The world, right now above your head, is the aftermath of 2 brothers correcting a mistake with archery. And then their father gives them a problem. There are 2 worlds to rule, the world of the dead and the world of the living, and every brother wants the living, so they compete. And the final contest is this: each one plants a flower, and whoever grows the better flower takes the living world. And Daebyul-wang the elder grows a flower that blooms, and Sobyul-wang's flower withers, and then they both fall asleep beside them. And Sobyul-wang wakes up first, and he switches the pots, and when his brother wakes, the dead flower is his, and the living world belongs to the cheat. And here is why this myth is unlike almost anything else. The elder brother knows, he sees it, he says so, and he lets him have it anyway. And he goes down to rule the dead. And that is the explanation. That is the whole theodicy. Why is there murder? Why is the living world so unjust? Because it is governed by the one who cheated to get it, and the dead are ruled by the honest one, which is why the land of the dead is orderly and fair. Sit with that. The dead got the good administration. Most mythologies say the world is fallen and it is your fault. This one says it was rigged before you arrived. So let us talk about the shamans, because here is what makes Korean mythology different. From Greek, from Norse, from Egyptian, it is not over. The religion is still running. Nobody is reconstructing this from a broken pot. It is called Musok, and the practitioner is usually a woman. She is called a mudang. Male practitioners exist and in some regions are called baksu, but this is overwhelmingly a women's tradition, and that matters enormously, because for centuries the official ideology of the Korean state was Confucianism, rigid, hierarchical, male, and it despised shamanism. Mudang were pushed to the bottom of the social order, classed with outcasts. And it survived anyway, because the Confucian state served the men of the household, and the mudang served everyone else, the wives, the dead children. The grief the official system had no room for, and there are 2 ways to become one. The first is inheritance. In some regions, the role passes down a family line. You are trained, you learn the songs, a craft. The second is not a choice. It is called sinbyung, spirit sickness. It arrives without warning. The person stops eating, cannot sleep, sees things, hospitals find nothing. And it does not stop. And the diagnosis is that a god has selected you, and the sickness only ends one way: you accept. There is an initiation ritual. The spirit comes down into you. The illness lifts, and now you are a mudang for life, and most did not want it. Refusal is understood to be worse. That is not a calling. That is a conscription, and the ritual they perform is called a gut. It is not quiet. It is drums and cymbals, and a woman in blazing color spinning. And the god arrives in her, and speaks through her mouth to a family on the floor. And a dead husband might scold his widow, and a drowned son might say goodbye in his own voice, and people weep. And this happens now. in a country of high-speed rail and glass towers, and it happens most of all for the dead. Because the single most important thing a mudang does is get people across. And to understand that, you have to meet the woman who made it possible. A king and a queen want a son. They keep having daughters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and the queen is pregnant again. And they are certain. This one is the boy, and it is a girl. And the king does not disown her. He does not send her away to be raised elsewhere. He orders her thrown out, discarded, put in a box, and put in the water, and let the world do what it does. Her name is Bari. And the name is not affectionate. Bari means, roughly, thrown away, discarded. Her name is the thing they did to her. She does not drown. Something saves her. An old couple, a Buddha, an animal, the water itself. Because there is no single Bari story, there are many regional versions. About 100 have been written down in 4 regional families, but the bones are the same. She is raised far away by strangers, poor. And back at the palace, the king and the queen fall sick, fatally, and nothing works. And the answer comes, there is one medicine. And it is not in this world. Someone has to go to the other one and bring it back. So they ask the 6 daughters, the ones they kept, the ones they raised and fed, and everyone says no. Excuses, husbands, children, fear, 6 for 6, no. So somebody remembers the 7th, the one in the river, and they find her, and they ask her, the daughter they threw in the water, to please go into death and come back for them. And she says yes. And this is the part that stops people. She is not tricked into it. She is not enchanted. She knows exactly who they are and what they did. And she goes, dressed as a man in many versions because a woman alone would not survive the road. And she walks out of the living world. And it is long. Thousands of miles of it. Rivers of blood. Fields of thorns. Hells stacked on hells. She meets the punished, and she keeps walking. And at the end of the road there is a guardian. He keeps the water of life and sets his price. Years of labor, chopping his wood, hauling his water, tending his fire. 9 years in many versions. And then marriage and children. And she does that too. She bears him sons in the land of the dead. And only then does she get the medicine. Nobody hands anything to Bari, ever. She pays for all of it, and she carries it home. And she is too late. The funeral procession is already moving through the streets, and she stops it. And she opens the coffins, and she brings her mother and her father back from the dead, the parents who threw her in a river. And the king, restored, offers her the kingdom. Anything, name it. And Bari does not take the throne. She asks for something else. She asks to be given the dead, to be the one who guides them, to walk the road she already knows, over and over, forever, with everyone who has to go. And that is what she becomes, goddess of the road of the dead, patron of every mudang who ever lived. Which is why, when a Korean family holds a funeral ritual, the shaman sings Bari's story, to the corpse, to the room. Because the message is, you are not going alone. Someone is walking with you. And she has been down there before, and she was thrown away too. The one who was discarded is the one who comes back for you. That is the theology. And on the road she walks, you will meet a man in black. He is called the Josong Saja, the messenger of the other world. And that black hat and coat you are picturing, not ancient at all. Invented for a television show in 1980. In the old paintings he wears the bright red armor of a military officer, not a phantom, a bureaucrat. He is a civil servant with a list, and your name is on it. And people tried to bribe him. Families left food and money by the gate. A packed lunch for the reaper. And we start with the one most damaged in translation. The Dokkaebi. You have seen the picture. Horns, fangs, a tiger skin loincloth, an iron club. And that picture is a problem, because that is essentially a Japanese oni. And the folklorist Kim Jong-dai traced how it got here. The colonial-era schoolbook of 1915 has no goblin picture. The 1923 edition has an oni, and generations learned their own goblin was someone else's demon. So what is a Dokkaebi actually? It is not born, it is not a species. It is made out of garbage, a worn-out broom, a cracked pestle, a poker. Things used by human hands for years, and then discarded. And if they soaked up enough of human life along the way, they wake up. Your kitchen produces gods. The thing you threw out is now standing in the road at night. And what does it want? Mostly to mess with you. Dokkaebi love wrestling, and games, and buckwheat jelly, and the stories give away the trick. A Dokkaebi has one leg, hook the left, it goes over. That is how you beat a Korean goblin. And they carry the famous club. And that club is not a weapon, it is a vending machine. You strike the ground and say what you want, and gold pours out. In the famous tale, an honest man gets one, a greedy man copies him, and the Dokkaebi beat him instead, which tells you what they are, not monsters, not demons. The mischief of the universe with an opinion about your character, which is why modern Korean drama could turn one into a romantic lead. Not really a distortion, there was always something warm in there. Now the fox. And this one requires precision, because East Asia has 3 of these, and they are not the same animal. The oldest is Chinese, the Huli Jing, the 9-tailed fox of the classic of mountains and seas, which does not call her lucky. It says she cries like a baby and eats people. The good omen reading came centuries later from commentators, a fox seen in a time of peace. 9 tails meaning many children. The luck was added on. Then Japan. The kitsune, often the servant of Inari, the rice god. You will find her statues at the shrine gates. A kitsune can be a trickster, but it can also be worshipped. Then Korea, the Gumiho, 9 tails, same count, very different weather around her. In the Korean tales, she is far more often a danger. She takes the shape of a beautiful woman, marries into a household, and people begin to disappear. No Inari, no auspicious omen for an emperor. In Korea, the fox is not a divine messenger. She is what got into the house. But I am going to push back on the version you have heard, because the internet flattens this. The Gumiho is not always evil. There are tales where she is deceived, where she is loyal, where she is trying to become human, and a human ruins it. The man-eating monster is a simplification. And be careful which parts are old. The rule that she must go 100 days undiscovered to become human, not folklore, television. Popularized by a drama series in the 1970s. But the glowing bead, passed mouth to mouth in a kiss, that one is genuinely old. It was written down in 1927. So the invented part is not the part you would guess. And the new parts are not fake, they are new. Mythology has always done this. It is doing it now on streaming. Next. You have seen this one and did not know its name. Outside the great palace in Seoul, there is a stone beast, lion-bodied, a horn, a ridiculous face. It is called the haetae, or the haichi. And it is not decoration. It is a lie detector. It knows right from wrong, guilt and innocence on sight. And in the old idea, it butts the guilty party with that horn, justice as an animal, and you will be told it was put there to eat fire. It was not. The 1870 record says the statues marked where officials had to dismount. The fire story shows up 16 years later, and the haetae has a Chinese relative, the Zag. Korea did not invent this beast, but in 2008 Seoul made the haichi its official symbol, a justice monster, mascot of a modern capital. Next, the saddest creature in Korean myth, the imugi, an enormous serpent. And it is not a dragon. It is a dragon in waiting. It lives in water, a pool, a well, a deep river. And it waits. You will hear 1,000 years. Be careful with that number. Korean sources say 1,000, 3,000, 9,000, depending on the province. The 1,000 is mostly a modern film. But the real folklore has something crueler. If one single human being sees the imugi rising, it fails, and it never rises again. Centuries in a well undone by a witness. There is your national theme again, in a snake. And finally, look up. Go to almost any Buddhist temple in Korea and walk up the hill behind the main hall, and there is a small building, off to the side, older feeling. And inside there is a painting of an old man, white beard, and beside him, leaning on him like a house cat, a tiger, he is the Sansen, the mountain spirit. And he is not Buddhist at all. He is older than the temple. He was on that mountain before Buddhism ever arrived in Korea, and Buddhism did not fight him. Buddhism built him a shed. That is the whole religious history of Korea in one building. Nothing gets replaced here. Everything gets kept and moved slightly to the side, and kept anyway. And do you remember where Dangun went when his 1,500 years ended? He went back to the mountain and became a mountain god, aged 1,908, the text says. So there is a case that you are looking at the founder. Retired, in a shed, behind a temple, with a tiger. So, what is Korean mythology actually? It is not a smaller China. It is not an earlier Japan. Things traveled, obviously. The Buddhist hells, the judging beast, the haetae. But watch what Korea does with what arrives. It does not copy it. It changes the ending. Everyone else's fox is the messenger of a god. Korea's fox is the thing in your house. Everyone else's founder conquers something. Korea's founder is the child of an animal that sat still. Everyone else's creation is a triumph. Jeju says the world came out wrong because somebody cheated at gardening, and go back to the two things at the very center of it. A bear in a cave, in the dark, eating bitter weeds. And a daughter in a river, thrown away for being born a girl. That is the pair. That is the whole tradition. Because Korea did not have a mythology of empire. It was invaded, constantly, for most of its recorded history. It was the corridor other people marched through. And you cannot build a story about invincibility on that. So it built one about something else. It said, the one who lasts wins. The one you threw away comes back. And the one who comes back does not come back for revenge. She comes back with medicine. That is Korean mythology. Not a pantheon on a mountain. A woman in the dark, refusing to leave.